Let's get busy.
Devin Coy in the house.
Nice to meet you, sir.
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm good, sir. How you
Good to
doing
meet
today?
you. I'm I'm a fan of the local comedy scene. I've had, Jessica Mathis on, Jessica Beach.
Yes.
Who was Jessica? Did you talk to, by the way?
Jessica Veach.
Beach, yeah.
Yeah.
See, I like Jessica. Derek Sawyer, you know
Yeah,
Derek?
Derek's my buddy, yeah.
Good people.
Derek is actually the one I originally reached out to you because he said
From that podcast.
for the roast. He
Oh,
said
for the roast,
I asked.
yeah.
I said, "Hey, this is my
Yeah,
alley.
that's right.
This is my
Yeah.
alley. Like I want to do some roasts, and I haven't been asked to do one."
Well, stick around for that because the roast we did, Antonio Pantoa, back at the end of July, it was pretty good. Did you make it?
No, I
Okay.
didn't. I was helping run another show that night, and I couldn't.
Well, we got it on video. We're going to it's going to come out soon. There's some editing that's going on now, but that's going to happen. But it was a success. I had a good time roasting Antonio. Derek, Jessica, and the other Jessica, Veach and Mathis, were all roasters, which, Antonio picked the roasters. But that's something that's my second roast that I've done. The first one was in March of 2007, fall of 2017. It was a local musician. It was a quick impromptu thing because I'm just a big fan of Jeff Ross and
Yes.
the whole celebrity
Right.
roast, and I thought I want to do one. But we'll focus on the musician. We actually did it here on a Sunday, and there was about 200 fucking people here, and it was great. It was fun. Some of the roasters got butthurt because they couldn't take being roasted on.
Couldn't take the heat, really?
Yeah, because we did have some with that one. Actually, both of these roasts we had. Calls, just to go over the do's and don'ts, the what's on the table, what's off the table, and a couple of people didn't make those calls, and the rest of the roasters unanimously voted nothing's off the table for them, and they're the ones that didn't show up for those calls meetings. They're the ones that got a little butthurt, but
That's how it goes.
Well,
That's you have to have a really good sense of humor, and you have to have some humility to be a comedian.
Clearly.
But actually, I think we're losing the ability to have humility in culture in general. People have very thin skin these days.
it is. And then some people will argue it's a millennial thing, or a bunch of but there's what is the term, snowflakes, whatever. But I just think I'm one of those guys that can find humor in anything.
I like to think I am as well, but
Yeah. I mentioned Jeff Ross, but I like, the dark humor of someone like Anthony Jeselnik.
Jeselnik's great.
He's-
His new
yeah.
special was good.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that
yeah.
a lot. I'm a big Doug Stanhope fan as well.
I've not seen.
Doug, he just likes to. Well, he's a heavy drinker, so he gets really sloshed on stage, and he likes to.
That's almost part of his gimmick too.
Yes, yes, but he likes to needle people. Like he knows he's going to get under your skin, and he goes in on people. He doesn't tour as much anymore, and he does his own booking and stuff nowadays. So he pretty much, but he's been doing it for so long that he has his own following, so he doesn't have to worry about really showing up somewhere
Right.
and people being there that don't know who he is. 15 years ago, yes.
Not now.
Not now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, give us a little. What's your story besides you being a Cards fan?
Well, I've wanted to be a comedian my entire life, but I just turned 40.
Which is, I was going to say your entire life.
Yeah, I just turned 40.
Okay.
When I was, when I was a kid in the 80s, my grandfather had HBO. I grew up with a single mom, so very poor. I didn't have cable or anything like that. But I would go to my grandpa's on the weekend and watch HBO. I'd stay up late. So like 9, 10, 11 years old, I'm watching Eddie Murphy, Delirious and Raw, and just like all the 80s movies with those comedic actors. Bill Murray, huge Bill Murray fan. So I would watch like an Evening at the Improv. I really enjoyed stand up as a kid, and then once I got to middle school, rock culture, because I was sort of a rocker kid, kind of changed to hip hop culture, and In Living Color came out, and I guess hit rap kind of took my passion, and I started writing music. And like when I joined the Army, like somebody got me into production, and I started making beats and stuff. Like
I've heard that about you too. Yeah.
I've sidetracked. I got sidetracked for way too much in my life. I should have started doing stand up when I was like 20, but I've actually only been doing it for 2 years now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's late.
Very late. Yes, I am. I'm
But
late to the
you've
game.
been in. But you go back to the '80s. Like comedy was,
Comedy was my passion. I didn't realize that I've always been the guy that went too far with every joke. I was always searching for a joke in every situation. I've gotten fired from a lot of jobs for that reason.
Are you serious?
Definitely, because I have no filter, and I've developed one in the past few years because culture has dictated that I develop.
That's
a filter.
now I'm curious. What kind of a fucking joke could you have said that got you fired?
Oh, let's see.
Give me a example
I
or
don't-
something close to.
Man, I don't know the exact joke. Just like 20 years ago, sexual innuendo was a little bit more tolerated than it is now,
Clear,
and
yeah.
so people. I probably definitely took that bro culture a little bit too far at times. I know I got fired from at least one job.
Are we talking recent or
No, this was when I was like 19, 20 years old.
okay.
Yeah. I know I got fired from at least one restaurant job because I was joking with the servers. I was a dishwasher, and I was joking with the servers, and I made one of the servers extremely uncomfortable with what I said. Well, fair enough. I mean, in today's culture, I would probably be canceled and wouldn't be sitting here with you right now. Probably shouldn't put this online, but back then they was just like, you know what, that's too much, and go wash dishes
so
somewhere else.
now like Me Too? Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of that shit's there. And but see, I'm also a type of guy that 9/11. There's probably a fucking joke you can say about 9/11. Yeah, but a lot of people, there's not political, blah blah blah. No, you can laugh about anything if it's done in a, I don't know if tasteful is the right way, but if in the spirit of comedy, it's I mean, it's to me, how much of it is you're kind of suspending, reality.
Yes, I mean the point is to take a dark situation and find the humor in it to make it palatable.
Yeah. Well, what's your comedy? I mean, is it dark? Is it?
Yeah, I do some dark humor. I do some politically incorrect humor, but just in the culture, like in the culture that we are today, I kind of have to stay in my lane until I become a better joke writer and find
Fair.
my voice.
Fair.
Because it takes a long time to really develop the skill to properly articulate and
Timing.
the timing
Yeah.
to tease out the humor and really dive into all the intricacies. Because if you're just writing a simple one-line joke on something brutal, people aren't necessarily going to find it. You have to find the contradictions in the argument and have the skill to develop that. And I'm not quite there yet. Eventually, I hope to be able to do some more risque and
Fair
touch
enough.
on subjects.
Who's some of your favorite comedians besides what you just mentioned?
Right now, Andrew Schultz. He's a guy that is. He's really changed the way comedy is being marketed. Recently, he released his special on YouTube, and he released it one bit at a time. So he released it once a week or once every 2 weeks in like 7 or 8 minutes increments.
Brilliant move.
And well, what he said was, people noticed. Netflix said that people watch for 15 minutes and then turned it off.
Right.
And so, but what he found on YouTube was people would watch he would watch a video of him, and then they would click on the next one, and then they would click on the next one, and before you knew it, they watched for 2 hours.
Right.
So he really changed the way, and since he did that, it's really opened a lot of people's eyes in the industry. It's taken the power away from a lot of the corporations to censor. But he's developed over time. Like
And those are 8 different hits versus just one hit.
Correct.
So.
And it was a good special. He touched on some really bad subjects that would make people cringe for a lesser joke writer as myself to try to do it. So I'm a big fan of his. I'm a fan of Sean Patton is great. He's a really articulate dude with crazy stories. He's from New Orleans. Really love that guy. Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer, love those dudes as well. I went and seen Tom Segura when he was in Louisville a couple months ago. Really like Theo Vaughn. I went to Lexington last year to see Theo. He's a real funny guy, very interesting, original style. As far as lower level comics who maybe you haven't heard of, I'm blanking right now. I'm so mad. Taylor Tomlinson is great. She's like 26 years old, and she's really coming along. She's going to be a superstar in a few years. Really like her a lot. But there's some great comedians here locally too that have great potential.
You know, that's I've heard so much, and I've tried. No, I take it back. I'm not tried hard enough to get to these comedy shows. You're saying you're doing this thing in Wick's.
Wick's, New Albany, every other Sunday. We have one this Sunday at 7 p.m. If anybody wants to come out and check us out. I think it's a cool thing to laugh. Yes.
It's an emotion. Going and find something that will bring some, I don't know, other than sadness, or anger.
You want to hear something really interesting? So there's a comedian from Louisville named, I shouldn't mention his name. He moved to California recently, and he came back to town this week for the festival in Ohio. And he's living outside of San Francisco. And what he said was, in California, like anything goes. Even though they're super progressive politically in California and I guess ideologically, but the people that come out to comedy shows, I guess they're so censored in their day-to-day life at work and everywhere else that they're coming to the show because they want to hear something.
Unloading.
Right. And so he's kind of like everything goes out there, which...
I've heard that. I mean, I'm a big, if you familiar with Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yes.
I'm kind of ripping off that one hard shot that he has of the, of him and that's my I'm ripping out, but that's my guy. But and he's hilarious. I mean, he's a great comedian.
Yes.
And I've heard the stories. He'll periodically have comedians come on, and they'll just tell those, comedy stories on how some of it just how brutal.
Right.
And to your point, and I think that makes sense, is that how their day is, it's like they're unleashing,
Unleashing the fury.
Yeah.
I hope to get to that point. For me, the problem is that I've started so late, 2 years in, and I'm married with 3 kids, and so my wife is a stay-at-home mom. And so I bring home.
There's comedy in that right there.
I work 45, 50 hours a week. So my ability to get home and see my kids and then get back out and do shows is limited.
Yeah.
I'll never actually be a touring comedian, but I can help promote and build it here in Louisville and run shows in the scene.
So you're running the show at Wick's. That's your show?
It's me and 3 other people.
Okay.
Me, Ashley Nicole, Tyler Walls, and William McKenzie, which William McKenzie is one of the best up-and-coming comedians here in the city.
Well, from me to you, whoever you want to recommend to come on, I'm open to that. Because to me, comedy, I'm the talent in this area. I say this. I honestly, I'd never have to leave the Louisville area as a fan of music, film, comedy, food, drink.
Yeah.
I mean, we have really everything that I need here, and so keep doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it.
And and we'll definitely talk with some of the roasts. I've actually, the roast thing I'm going to keep doing. I'm trying to do 2 a year, but I've also talked to a couple of the people that was part of the roast about how about, because one of the roasters, Andrew Asher, is a very accomplished guitarist in town.
Okay.
Badass guitar. And I don't know if you heard the story on him. He was one of the better roasters.
One of the firebrands.
And he's not a comedian.
Right.
He's a musician, but he's funny. And he was my I got to pick 2 people. I wanted to pick a female, which I wound up picking Jessica Veach. But then Andrew was my designated Jeff Ross. And he's my designated from this point because he was on the first roast and he just killed it. and again, he's one that took it serious, and as soon as I gave him the green light to be part of it, and he started writing shit and doing his thing. But he and I were talking about let's bring music and comedy together. Can we pull that off where you got a music act, and in between the you got music break, comedy, this comedian get up, stand up, come back to music, back and forth. And in the comic, I mean, here's the thing is that the breaks, typically are 10, 15 minutes in between a set. 10, 15 minutes, actually, that's a long time for a comedy, for a comedian to get up there and do a bit.
Right.
Yes?
15, for 15 minutes is a little short of a feature set. A feature set at a club would run 20 to 30, depending upon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're close to a comedian coming up and giving almost a featured, set.
Yeah.
So if you gave them 15 minutes to do their thing, I think that would be great. I wouldn't say it. I'd say filler, but it's not filler. But a great spot in between the music.
I tell you what,
and I don't know if you've explored that, but I do want to explore that.
It's those are from my understanding, those are tough gigs. I did a opioid benefit recently at what's the place used to be Baxter's, the bar down there. It's Diamonds now. So Diamonds had an opioid benefit here recently for it's like the third annual for a guy that OD'd. And
the Brian's War. That's right.
Yeah. So it was like a music festival, and then they had like an hour that they slotted for comedians. So we had 4 comedians. I was one of them so I did 15 minutes. It can be very tough because the crowd they're chilling down from the music.
The bar's in the back, and they're all escaping the stage to go back to.
So we were actually out on the deck. So they have the bar area deck.
Oh, you were not in the concert hall.
They didn't put us in the concert hall. No, we were like sort of filler between. They were moving from the harder stuff to an acoustic late night, and so we transitioned it, and it went as well as it can go. Most people.
But what was the response? What was the crowd?
There was some people that were very interested that sat there and they laughed their ass off. But then there was other people that was just like, I'm trying to escape from the music and talk to my girlfriend or my buddy right now. We're gonna smoke.
So they were there for the music.
Right.
So when the music ended, they went and done their thing. Okay, I get that, and that's fair. I mean,
I think there are ways to do it that would make it efficient and more well received, but I couldn't give you any insight into how to do that properly.
My thinking is that you do it. You do. I guess you do it at a place where the. I mean, I guess If people need to step away for a smoke or to chill out with their girl or whatever. I mean, I guess that's going to happen. But I guess what I'm thinking is that you got to promote it as equal, because I think like with Brian's War, I didn't realize. Frank was on the guy who Brian, his dad.
Oh, okay.
Frank Karen. He came on and did a podcast with me promoting it. Honestly, if he said that, I didn't catch it, that there was a comedy guy. So to me, it was all nothing but music. So I didn't catch that. I guess my point I'm getting at is that if I'm going to do an event where it's music and comedy, I'm promoting it as music and comedy. I'm not promoting it just to me. I thought that was just the benefit with a bunch of musicians. I don't think I caught the comedy part.
Well, I'll tell you, the way comedians grow and way comedy communities grow is by comedians such as myself going out and find restaurants and bars who are like, yeah, we can do an open mic night or we can do a showcase night once or twice a month. But what typically happens is the barflies, the regulars, they're like, what are you doing in here right now? What I don't know. And then so they're not necessarily interested sometimes. So
they got music on their mind. Yeah, go ahead.
And so like for beginning level comics, you're sort of harsh. Your humor is sort of dirty and edgy. And it's not so. A lot of restaurants, they get one or two, and they're like, my guys are leaving. I can't.
The restaurant thing, I don't think that's. Well, put it this way. We did the roast at the Levee on River Road. Are you familiar with the Levee?
I've heard of it. Yes, I haven't been there.
It's not a place where. Put it this way. They had to put signs on their door that said, graphic content.
Right.
Because they actually, though it was a ticketed event or paying event, they still opened their patio up for regular customers that were not going to see the roast. And those people had to still come through through the front.
Yeah.
And they'd walk through and they'd see this sign before they come in, and they were a little confused because
Right.
they were going to have a say on what goes on Tuesday nights. Typically it's music. As that's playing here.
That guy's good. Yeah.
It seems to be. I have not been able to actually listen to him or hear him, but we've talked about being a little more creative on what goes on here on Tuesday nights. Baxter's, and I'm probably calling them out here, they promote. If you go to Baxter's Facebook page, they say hosted by Shooting from the Lip podcast. But I've not been able to officially say who is the entertainment part. I'm working that out. And I don't think it always has to be music. Read between the lines. It's the same stuff.
Okay.
So stay tuned for that.
Oh, that's awesome. I like this area right here. This is actually pretty cool.
This is, for tonight during the non-weekend. I take it back. Tuesday night, I'll have this area to myself all night. And depending on who's the music act will determine how the crowd is out there. Wednesday night, I think it's Wednesday and Thursday are DJ nights, and the young crowd, it gets pretty crazy. So, if I want to do a podcast, I could still do it on Wednesday and Thursday, but I'd have all these young people just coming through, playing pool, walking through. And I actually did one about a month or so ago here on a Wednesday, and you have all these young kids coming up and looking over my shoulder and seeing what's going on, which I didn't mind. I think it kind of makes for a cool background.
You catch some feedback.
Yeah,
though,
you
when
get a
they're
little
in
bit.
Yeah.
And I don't mind. So right now, what time? It is, it's 10:17. Well, no, the music's supposed to go until 11, so he's probably on break. The music stopped. What do you hear right now?
A couple of voices, a little bit of echoes. Yeah.
Basically nothing
Yeah.
is what I'm getting at.
Right.
That's not the typical too. I mean, when the music ends or is on a break, usually I hear. I mean, we could take this off and talk to each other, and we'd be fine.
Right.
It's easy. Yeah, you want to leave, but usually from the time 8 o'clock starts with music, I have to have these on because the background noise, whether it's the music or just people, you hear it. You can't.
Right.
We couldn't just talk to each other.
Yeah. Makes it easier for us to hear each other, and we don't miss words.
I guess what I'm getting at is there's not a lot of background noise here tonight, so we got to work on that. Got to work on that back.
A little bit more.
I'm trying
a
to
little
help
bit
them
more
out.
Marketing.
Trying to help
Yeah.
them out.
So you're not a Louisville. Let's switch up here for just a second. You're not a Louisville fan, so you're a UK fan.
I'm
assuming?
a UK fan, but I'm not a
Okay.
Louisville hater.
Okay, that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
But you are a Louisville fan.
When I was going to start doing comedy, when I first wrote my material, I wrote 8 minutes of Katina Powell jokes,
Amazing.
and I was ready to go unleash
On her or the program?
on her. Yeah.
Well, you go ahead.
Yeah,
keep going. Keep
so,
going. 'Cause
but then-
I'm gonna one up you on that. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, that's funny though, because for UK fans, she's the gift that keeps on giving. Katina Powell, can you please stop wearing Louisville gear and getting arrested? We would appreciate that a whole lot.
She wears the Louisville gear when she gets
Stop
arrested,
showing up in court
and no
in your
wig,
Louisville shirts.
and without the wig.
But for Louisville, like, so for UK fans, she's the gift that keeps on giving. For Louisville fans, she's the bitch that won't stop living. There's no way around that.
Like
That's that does not go over well in crowds, by the way.
Yeah,
No,
but I think that's fucking funny. So.
You know what? I'm out all the time, and I see who was the other one, the blonde
Cypher.
Karen Cypher. I see her
I've
all
not seen her.
the time.
You've seen her?
I see her
really?
regularly.
Like
Yeah.
Where? Where would you see her?
In Middletown.
Really? I
Middletown,
get out
yeah.
there every now and then, but okay.
I see her a lot, and please don't go harass Karen Cypher. The first time I saw her, she made eye contact with me, and then I did a double take, and now every time she sees me,
You see her often?
I've
Regularly?
seen her probably 6 times in the past 6 months.
No shit.
So when
Are
she's,
you all on a first name basis?
No. She makes eye contact with me now because she remembers the first time the response that I gave her. So I had this 8 minutes of Katina Powell material, and like I said, I had terrible stage fright, and I'm worried about going up and getting on stage. And then Charlottesville happened, and I'm like, oh, I cannot go right now with the culture that we have in the country right now and unleash.
I just Charlottesville the
rally and the fight
rally
and
the
the riot.
the girl that got right over.
Right. Heather Heyer, I believe is her name.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that, and so I'm like, okay, I cannot go unleashed. This is not, I know how I look. I know people, I realize that I'm a bald-headed guy with a beard, and I know what I look like.
Bald-headed.
I've tried to grow my hair out a little bit just because I couldn't be bald anymore because of the appearance that it gave off. So it made me really nervous. And so the first time that I actually got the nerve, I showed up at a show. Somebody told me to go. There was a promoter, Vernon Thompson. He owns Comedy by the Bridge. At the time, he was running Wicks. He was doing other shows around Southern Indiana. And so I just showed up one night. He didn't know me. He came and introduced himself. I told him who I was, and he said, do you want time tonight? Well, it turned out to be the host show, so it was supposed to roast him. So there was a pretty good crowd there. He's a very large black gentleman, African-American gentleman, and half the crowd was black. And I'm like, all I have is Katina Powell jokes. So I'm like, all right, well, this is it. I drank like 8 beers to get ready for it. I went up there. I unloaded for about 5 minutes. The very first time a joke didn't hit, my mind went blank, and I'm like, and I made eye contact with him, and he made eye contact with me, and he started laughing like, oh, you're in trouble now. But I found myself, I got through it. Everybody was a little upset that I didn't continue to go. It was actually a pretty good set for a first time. So the Katina Powell material went pretty well that night. I was in my own head because I don't necessarily want to be offensive. I want to touch on edgy subjects. But in the context of the culture that we live in, you got to wonder what's going to happen to you if you say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. And so I was super nervous. It went well. Vernon supported me after that. He's been good to me. He's doing great things with his place in Southern Indiana. He's done a good job. But we have a great scene overall, and I just want people to know, don't be scared. If you want to come out, just sit through one open mic. You'll see enough people do terrible that you'll be like, oh, I can definitely do that. So come on out. Find somebody on Louisville is funny and come out to a show. You can come to our show. You can hit up Ashley Nicole on Facebook. She'll put you on one of our shows to come do an open mic. People just need to live a little, like have some humility, like we were saying to start. Have a little humility. Understand that I like to say every joke, every joke has a punchline, and you're going to be the punchline sooner or later.
Yeah, I agree.
And
some of us are okay being the punchline.
I kind of like it.
I'm a team player. I can deal with it.
I kind of like it.
What was the line? Was it Jack Nicholson when he played Batman? Why so serious?
Right.
Yeah.
Why so serious? That's a great line.
But going back to Katina Powell.
Okay, tell me your side. Go ahead.
She obviously what she did to the program. Actually, that is kind of the gift that keeps on giving. It is. I mean, it's comical. As a Kentucky fan, well, it's comical, yet I was like, oh, good God. And then, what was it, recently the news came out that, not a booster, but a...
it was David Grissom apparently had said that, they said, I think it was a booster, or somebody on the board.
It was
They were.
I don't think it was the booster. It was not a booster. It was a.
They said he was the money man. Apparently.
Yeah, they had that a money man was identified. So.
You know, I think Rick. I think in Rick Bozich's column, he came up with, just going over her book. He came up with like $5,800 total. I've heard recently Drew Diener on his show on ESPN Louisville say that it was under 10,000. If you think about that over a 5-year period, that's less than good seats to be a season ticket holder.
No, I didn't know. Actually, I didn't know. Was it 5 year? Was it a 5 year?
It was over a 5-year period.
Really?
Yeah, it was
I thought
5
it was
years.
only like 2 or 3.
No, I think I forget the exact dates, but they said that she started coming around. I think it started off kind of slow, and maybe it picked up a little bit in the middle.
Business.
Business
All right,
picked up.
so here we are. I just remember you're familiar with KSR, Kentucky Sports Radio.
Yes,
Man.
yeah.
Which you're probably not a fan
I'm
of.
not. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, all right, Matt Jones.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Yeah. So she did their show.
Oh, did she really? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, this was like been a couple of years, so that was like kind of when it was hot.
Okay.
So yeah, she gets on. Didn't you hear the infamous line where she said something about squirting to the ceiling or something like that? Yeah,
didn't know.
She said that live on his show, and he had to like we can't say that kind of stuff here. That was hilarious. You got to Google that shit. Anyways, Ryan Lemon is one of the co-hosts on that show, and Ryan has been. I've done some podcasts with him. And after I'd done a podcast with him, I put it out there. And actually, one of the things I brought up was, Katina Powell, that infamous,
Right.
Interview you all did, and the squirting to the ceiling kind of thing came up.
Oh God.
I kid you not. After I posted the podcast interview with Ryan Lemon, who is part of KSR, who was there for the Katina, I'm going to show you so that you'll see firsthand. I get a message on Messenger, a message. Look who it's from, and what does it say?
Where are we at?
Right here. That's who it's from. Look what it says.
Let's meet soon for a podcast. How recent was this?
It was October 2018
Oh, okay. So
at
you-
3:56 a.m. So
Okay.
yeah, that's clearly her. And actually, I did do my research. That is her Facebook page.
she's got bigger things on her plate right now.
Yeah.
I think since that date she's been arrested like 3 times.
But-
So
I have to admit, as a podcaster, that would make for great podcast.
it would be great. Yeah, absolutely.
I ran it. I mentioned it to some of my friends who are Louisville fans.
Okay.
Actually, I mentioned it intentionally because they are my friends and they're Louisville fans. And I just said, seriously, would you, as a friend and a Louisville fan, be okay if I had Katina Powell on the podcast? And almost all of them said, don't do it.
Don't do it. Really?
And I respected it. I didn't do it. I
I
had
mean-
my chance, and I didn't do it.
At this point, it's kind of she's kind of throwing herself under the bus.
Yeah, but-
she's
yeah.
discrediting it. She's discrediting her entire argument at this point.
I mean,
Like,
she's well, she's not a good person. I mean, clearly she's not living. I mean, she's breaking the law with the shit checks or whatever. What she did as far as with the guys or the basketball team, it is what it is. They played along too. They're fucking whore. I mean, this is what it is.
I don't think anybody likes my take on this. Because, well, here's my take.
Yeah.
Because there's Carol Cartwright, I believe it was on the people the board who hammered us, and I apologize if I'm quoting her when it was another board member, but I googled Carol Cartwright and she looks like Aunt B from Mayberry. So I'm a little suspect of your judgment when you look like you're from the 1960s and you were like segregating swimming pools and stuff like this. Okay,
exactly.
so She was the one, if I'm not mistaken, that said it was repugnant. So when we're talking about the scandal, and this is why I'm opposite of you guys on this argument, is we're talking about from Bozich's estimate $5,800 to at most $10,000 over a 5-year period is not a huge sum of money. And this is basically consensual sex amongst poor kids from the inner city. So when you say it's repugnant, all I'm thinking is you're saying you don't like to think about black people having consensual sex. A lot of people aren't going to like to hear that. That's my take on it.
I have no problem with that.
And I'm
with
listen,
you there.
You had I'm not saying that you guys were advocating prostitution earlier in your previous podcast, but I have some progressive viewpoints and I have some libertarian viewpoints, and I kind of feel like victimless crimes, people shouldn't sit in cages for those things. So, like, I don't agree with human trafficking. There are definitely some good arguments to be made about human trafficking. There's also some good arguments to be made that it's the oldest profession in the world and you own your own body. And there are some countries that have legalized prostitution that do it quite well with good laws, with sanitary. Yeah, it's a good business.
It's a good business.
You can find it. I'm not advocating any specific websites, but you can see some of those.
No.
But I'm kind of torn because this was basically consensual transactions amongst young people. Like, kid, there was a couple of 16-year-olds that was peer pressured into doing some things that they weren't comfortable with.
A little bit more than that. It wasn't part of it. I don't have a problem with, honestly, Montrezl Harrell, all the current players that were in there getting their dicks and fucking. I have zero problem with that. I think the thing that probably, well, my understanding is the thing that really was the issue. I think it's all an issue, but was that there was the recruits.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're that part. Not that I still had it. Me personally. I mean, I get it, but if you're playing by the NCAA rules, was it a perk?
Well, right, it was a perk. You had people from the school that was providing money. That's an illegal perk.
That's the only part I have a problem with.
I tell you, there was.
If you're going to have a level playing field for every other school. Now, granted, people were like, I heard a lot of, even my friends, Louisville friends, they do it at every school.
Prostitute. I don't know. I think a lot of people felt like every school has you as an athlete. You would think that there's plenty of girls who are going to come for you. And there was this was like a decade ago. There was an offensive lineman for the Colorado Buffalo for University of Colorado. University. He did like an NBC or a Dateline or something where he's like, oh yeah, they provided and he was like 19 years old, and the lady was like, what happened? And he got embarrassed. Like, he was 19. He was kind of ashamed to say, well, she performed oral sex on me. And that was an embarrassing moment for him. It would have played different in 2019 than it did in like 2006 or 7 or 8, whenever it went us.
Exactly.
But for the dollar amount, and this was one of the issues that I had, was a lot of people were kind of tone deaf on the issue, because I heard people saying, oh, if he knew, he would have had the best of the best primo. You see the shoes that he wears, and I'm like, you're kind of throwing these kids under the bus here. I mean, you got to understand, these are underprivileged kids. Even the girls, I don't fault, other than Katina, I don't fault any of the girls at all. They wanted to be around college athletes. They come from an impoverished background. I'm not knocking their character as human beings at all. And so
they saw it for what it was.
I felt bad that they were kind of being slandered, and I don't think this was 3 or 4 years ago, so we weren't quite to that point where we could put that into context. But, I mean, there should be some credit to the kids who declined the invitation. I feel bad for a couple of the 16-year-olds that were kind of peer pressured into doing something they didn't want to do.
So,
but from an institutional standpoint, we were wrong. I'm not knocking the institution.
You know, and you actually touched on something, and this is what kind of threw me for a loop. Because here's the thing: when Louisville fans were like, "This happens," is probably happening at every university. It's happening in Kentucky, Duke. You know, here's the difference. And this should have happened here at Louisville, too. Just fucking contact one of the sorors. Somebody would have known, a group of people on campus,
Yeah.
That were students
Yeah.
that would have
Definitely.
just hooked up, had come to the party
Definitely.
and not have to pay a penny.
Here's the thing.
They would have had their alcohol paid for all night.
I'll tell you what, I'll throw my own school under the bus because
that shit would probably does happen at Kentucky, Duke. Yes.
Well, see, here's the thing. Not only are there girls on our campus that would have been willing to do that, but we had a great recruiting class, but we didn't have Kentucky's recruiting class. I bet there were girls on UK's campus who couldn't get involved with those students who would have come down here and been happy to. Maybe that's second rate. Maybe you guys don't like that take, but there was probably other. It would have been consensual. It would not have been peer pressured at all.
Or money, no money transaction at all.
Yeah, that's the bad part, unfortunately.
Yeah. So that is.
It'd be great if Andre McGee come out and talked, but
What happened? Seriously, that's a good point. He's eventually going to have to come out.
you know what? I will bet anything Patino is paying him. Got to be paying him at this point. You're disconnected.
But whoa. If you're saying Patino's paying him,
At
then
this
you're
point-
saying
At this point, he's
to me-
not. He's been fired for what, 2 years?
2 years.
Okay. So at this point, maybe not during then. At this point, if it was me and I'm disconnected from the university, because he's still trying to get back into coaching. He's still young enough to coach. He's trying to get back
talking
in.
with McGee or-
I'm talking about Patino. McGee's done. He'll never coach again. I'm talking Patino.
He does want to coach.
He still wants
Clearly.
to. I heard even UCLA was interesting. They had boosters who wanted him.
They had reached out. Him and Calipari.
I think some of the more recent, if I'm not mistaken, some of the more recent stuff that's come out kind of vindicates him a little bit on some of the allegations, like maybe with the Brian Bowen stuff and things like that. I don't know. Dude, I love us. I don't want to get the death penalty. They clearly don't like us. If I had to rank all the scandals in order, Penn State is abhorrent. They covered that up. You're raping
gross.
children.
Yeah.
You covered that up for money because football is you were one of the power programs. You covered that up for money. Miami, you had a booster. Nevin Shapiro was running a Ponzi scheme for tens of millions of dollars. Had football players on his yacht. That's awful. North Carolina skated under the radar because
the academic thing.
right, the academic thing. They flowed under the radar because the NCAA ruled that the classes were open to all students.
student, right.
And I'm like, well, you're the point is, and that's one of the main arguments for why college players should be paid because you're not educating these kids.
Right.
You purposely had classes set up that weren't educating people. Your coaches were steering them into those classes. Right. So not only were you not paying them, but you were definitely attempting to not educate them.
No, I'm with you.
And that's like those three scandals to me are way worse than
They're-
ours because
But-
ours was for little money.
But the problem is that this arguably is. It might be now. Penn State, I could argue. I would argue. I'm going to make a statement, but I'll say right now, Penn State is that whole situation is
Disgusting.
Fucking disgusting. I think there's just so much the problem is it's sex and money.
It's
Sleazy.
salacious.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
it's salacious.
Yeah, prostitution.
Ooh,
I mean, it's
dirty.
exactly. I mean, that's what
You
it
want to
is.
touch people in their dirty parts?
know.
You want to pay them to do it? Oh,
It fucking squirted up to the ceiling. Yeah. I honestly, I hope my Louisville friends. I hope there's not a death penalty or whatever on the
dude, God, I'm so scared of that. Honestly, and if we get it, I'm going to be
But
mad.
the problem is, I'm
angry,
afraid
but-
the NCAA is ready to pull the trigger or to just show that we still have this authority to,
Well, isn't the Johnson? What's his name? Johnson, our coach. Kenny Johnson. He got a job. Was it LaSalle? He got a
Somewhere.
job last year. Is
Somewhere.
he still? Did he not get fired after they called his name out?
But did his name actually get called?
Yeah, no, they did.
Okay.
Yeah, his
So they-
Bowen's dad
well,
said
then-
that he's the
then
one that paid me.
clearly they had to have some kind of a show clause or whatever.
I don't think he has
no?
anything against him at this point.
Oh,
I
not
don't
yet?
know.
Okay, I don't-
Dude, with everything going on here in the past 2 years, I stopped turning the TV on. I don't watch the news.
I heard. Did you hear about DeMarcus Cousins?
with his ACL or
No. Even better. He just got married.
Okay.
What's today?
27?
No, over the weekend.
Okay.
Friday or Saturday, he got married.
Okay.
Well, there's TMZ just leaked a video or audio. I think it's video. Clear it with audio. Like before his wedding, he wanted his 7-year-old son to be there at his wedding, and the baby mama of the 7-year-old son, which is not with,
Yeah.
didn't want him to go.
Okay.
Well, evidently, DeMarcus Cousins threatened to kill her,
Okay.
and basically, I'm paraphrasing here, is that a bullet will find you or something, and I won't even. I mean, it is making the fucking the sports media rounds.
That's awful. You know what? That makes me want to reiterate that I don't want anyone to commit violence against Karen Cipher or Katina Powell. Violence is never the answer.
No, it's not.
You don't retaliate against people. Turn the other cheek. Forgive and let live. Have some humility. That's bad. So the injuries his career has got to be winding down because of this.
It's probably, yeah.
And then with that, that's going to be rough.
Because here's the thing, Mobile, because the lady and the son still live in Mobile, Alabama, which is his hometown. And the Mobile police are involved now.
Okay.
I mean, it's a fucking threat. I mean, she's got it on video / audio, whatever.
Oh, the baby mama has it on?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
And
he's
it's
done.
his his voice.
Oh, that's
now how he'll escape. Will he somehow finagle? That's not going to surprise me if he gets out of it. But it's a threat. It's a still fucking threat. And here's the thing: I was on KSR today. I'm a UK fan, but I'm not a fucking UK homer.
We've talked about KSR twice now.
Well,
here's
here's the thing. I'm not a homer. I'm not a BBN homer. I actually have more arguments with Kentucky fans than I do Louisville fans.
Well, they're obnoxious. I get that.
Well, we get that. We're obnoxious because there's so many. But, on a ratio basis, there's as many obnoxious Louisville fans. But I digress.
No.
So I go out there, and there's on KSR website, there's the article about DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah.
So in the comments section, there are literally people commenting, defending DeMarcus, saying, how was it basically, is that I get it. In the heat of the moment, you say stuff when you're, in an argument or something like that. I'm like, what? You don't fucking threaten someone's life. And this is my comment. I'm going sparring. I'm like, basically at this point, I'm like, stop fucking jacking yourself off to DeMarcus Cousins.
Yes.
He's
Everyone should assume that
a
there's
little bit
audio.
of a thug. And that to me, he was kind of he came across that way, and I always try to give him the benefit of doubt in college. But
He's a big guy. I wonder if one of these times he tore his ACL or his Achilles, he hit his head on the floor. Maybe he has CTE or something. I don't know. Everyone should assume that there's video. There was so my kids are 9, 7, and 2, and my 9 and 7-year-old go out in our front yard and play, and they've been playing with the neighbor kids, and the little girl came up and told my wife earlier today that my son told her brother to lie to her father that she had hit him. And my wife was telling me about this before I come up here. And
a lot of moving parts there.
So so the little girl told my wife that my son told her her brother to lie that she had hit him.
Okay.
So my wife said, we have security cameras right here and right there, so I guess we'll find out the truth. And apparently the little girl had a panic-stricken face when that was said. So that's good. She should learn that. These kids should learn that.
Did she come clean?
Well, it was written on her face.
Okay.
I think she's too little to come. She doesn't have the ability to
Not
have
yet.
humility yet.
How did she
She's got to be
Whatever.
7, 8
Okay.
years old. Like just a
The look
just a
on her
kid.
face is enough.
She
All right.
realized
that would probably hold up in a court of law? The look on
it's not serious, but everyone should realize you're always being. Oh, here's an interesting thing. I was at a show here recently, and the comedian on stage, he was a Jewish guy, and he was talking about picking up a Tinder date. And he said when she got undressed, she had a swastika tattooed on her breast. Well, another comedian was standing beside him.
This is a comedian telling this story?
Yes, he's on stage telling the story to the crowd.
Is
And
it a joke or is it real?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't
Fair
know.
enough. All right.
I don't know, but there's another comedian standing beside me, and he's on Facebook while this is going on, and we're just standing there. So he's scrolling through Facebook, and in that moment, a picture pops up of a woman with a swastika tattooed on her breast.
No way.
Like, I swear to I'm not lying.
Same person.
No. Different. This is different. But it's the phone, obviously, heard the audio. The people say the audio and the apps are listening to us. He's like, because me and him had just had the conversation the night before about these apps paying attention to us.
They do.
And
Clearly.
he's like, dude, look at this. And he's showing me on Facebook. He's like, this isn't my feed. He's just scrolling. He says, look, he scrolls up, he scrolls down, and he's like, how does this pop up when he just said this like 2 minutes ago? It's like,
It actually,
'cause they're listening. Like,
they are.
the technology is out there, people.
Clearly.
Understand.
I mean, it's funny you say that because I'm having a conversation at work about a cost analysis. This was yesterday that I'm doing in some technology we're buying, and I kid you not, that evening on Facebook, one of the ads was one from the companies that I had said out loud in this meeting.
It's wild.
I mean, but then what do you do? I mean, what can you do? I mean, can you
Make sure you don't take your phone with you.
or
in
you
any
turn your
room you
fucking
wanna
phone
have a
off, right?
conversation.
You turn it off or something, yeah, right.
Yeah, like leave when I have private conversations with my wife, the phones and the tablets are in the other room.
Yeah.
That's
and,
the
you know,
plan
and then
going
people
forward.
who bitch about social media, you know, Facebook, that, you know, I post something off and then they put me in Facebook jail because I said that. You know what? My thing is that it's a free app for starters.
Yeah,
I guess publicly, they're a public company.
publicly
Yeah.
traded now. Yeah,
So I guess there's probably some rules that they got to abide by. But my thing is that if you're not paying for something, you're on doing something for free, and you really, I don't know if you can really complain.
they're getting it. They're making like information is valuable.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. Is I've got a friend. And I got to be real careful of how I word this. I got this thing that I've talked about a little bit in my.
But if
stand-up.
it's your only friend, then we probably know who that friend is, right?
If it was my only one.
Okay, but you.
So, Google gave me a notification last year that a friend of mine was on Twitter. So when you download an app, the app wants your permissions to do things. So Google says your friend is on Twitter. Come check them out. Mm-hmm. So they were someone that was stored in my Google contacts. Right. So I go on there and I click on it, and I check out the person, and I get a lot of background information about them. They're doing some adult behavior on Twitter, if you get my drift. Oh. And I click on the picture, and I'm like, oh, this is someone that I know very well.
So it was legitimately that same person.
Yes. Okay. And so I had to notify that person that, hey, you gave your app permission, and now your Google phone notified all your Google contacts who have Twitter, because they said, okay, this many people in your contact list has Twitter. Everyone in your phone that has Twitter just got a notification that you're doing this adult behavior on here. And that person panicked. Panicked is an overstatement, or an understatement. Understatement probably. So yeah, I mean, they communicate with each other. Like, people need to be aware. Like, it is free and we should expect them to, but we don't necessarily know what they're doing to us, and it gets really weird.
I mean, I think if you follow social media and understand what social media is, you can't be surprised at what's out there. I mean, honestly, anything you say or do, I mean, especially, I mean, it's actually, I mean, here's the thing: if you got secrets, you don't need to be on social media. I mean, but if you're secret free, or at this point in your life, you're like, fuck it, I don't give a shit. Who knows what? Then
I think everybody now is kind of realizing, because people are getting burned. We got this thing now going where cancel culture is real. I mean, you hear celebrities talking about it. It happens at a local level where you do or say something that's outside of, like, you can't. Everyone should have things that they're ashamed of. This is part of being a human being. and you have to be able to.
That
be
just
able to
reminds
grow.
us that there are lines that we shouldn't cross.
Yeah, but everybody has. I mean, some things you should have. You should be able to have an opportunity for redemption.
You should.
And holding somebody accountable for a minor misdeed at some point in their past, decades ago, just really seems to be.
That's a good point, because the truth is that, in fairness, the shit you and I did 10, 15 years ago was might have been socially accepted. Right now, with Me Too and all how fucking people are trigger happy, maybe not so much. So they look at through their lens, through their 2019 lens, at something you and I did in 2005.
Right.
And they're like, then they'll blast us because how could you?
Right.
You were, I mean, it was just, but at that point, the rule was probably okay. Or, I don't know if you know where I'm going, but it might have been socially accepted. It might have, we not, shit I did in 2000, no one would have probably, it wasn't a big deal.
It's hard to apply the logic and social norms of today to yesteryear, because people in yesteryear, regardless of their demographics and their
no social media.
Well, I mean, people, we had the say racial relations were rougher, but people were managed to get along reasonably well during that period, and so you can't take your perception of today and apply it to yesteryear, because you can't assume that somebody would have been offended by that behavior in yesteryear, because it was a social norm at the time. They would have been accustomed to experiencing that. Just because you haven't experienced it now doesn't mean that people then weren't desensitized to it and didn't understand that. What, screw him.
No, I'm with you. Totally with you.
And
how much of that I don't mean to go here, but from a political standpoint, how much of that do you think, and I don't know where your politics stand, but how much do you think, for instance, this administration enables a lot of hate, divisiveness?
Yeah, I agree.
I made the statement the other day to someone, and they flipped out when I said it, but mainly because they didn't get it. They're a Trump supporter. And I said, we were talking about something, and I said, and this was something about some mass shooting or something like that. Yeah. And I said, well, every fucking racist probably voted for Trump. And they were like, I'm not voting for Trump, and I'm not a racist. I'm like, no, you didn't hear what I said.
Right.
I said, every fucking racist voted for Trump.
Guaranteed.
Not every Trump supporter is racist.
I've heard that. Yes, that's true. Yeah.
I guess that's my point, is that I don't think that's an exaggeration that a large percentage of racist people in our country, in the United States,
absolutely,
voted for Trump.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And a lot of his rhetoric, a lot of his actions enables some of those people.
I agree.
And again, I don't know where you stand on this. And that's very discouraging, because I do think I've actually, if you go back and listen to, I had this during the Obama term when I first started doing the podcast. I remember telling whoever it was that we're a very racist country. It's just that right now, with Obama in office, a lot of those people are keeping it to themselves. They couldn't be themselves. Because
probably.
Yeah.
A friend of mine told me the other day, she's very progressive and very feminist, and she said, you know what, there was some people here recently that was saying that this was going on and it was festering, and Obama couldn't speak on it because it would have come across the wrong way, and I was like, okay, I hadn't heard that. That's reasonable. But there's also a lot of people who voted for Obama twice that didn't get what they had hoped for,
and voted for Trump,
and did.
I know a lot of those people.
Yeah.
So, and I know they're not. if you're a racist, you're not voting for Obama. Period.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Why
exactly.
would you?
Exactly.
Right. Why would you?
So I get it. Those people, I know a lot of people that voted for Obama that voted for Trump.
yeah.
And it was that was their choice. They're not racist.
I know a lot of conservative guys that have never voted for a Democrat. See, 'cause people like millennials right now are so divided ideologically that they can't comprehend having a friend that has a different political belief as you. And we grew up with this, but this was common. Like, I have very close friends that have wildly different worldviews as me, and I still love them because I've known them my whole life.
But
And I
for
have-
us, it
well,
was never a game breaker.
It was
Or
never
a deal
it was a
breaker.
deal breaker.
Yeah.
It never was. Like I've got conservative friends that refuse to vote for Trump because of what he was doing, and that they're still conservative and they still hold these conservative values, and that they're hoping that eventually another conservative candidate comes along, that the party doesn't go down those lines. So I'm not going to write off all conservative people. That maybe people 10, 15 years younger than me want to do that. Me personally, I'm not going to do it. I try to find the best in people and build common ground. If we can focus on the things that we agree upon, we can build a bridge.
I mean, we see it. I'm sure you've seen it, that we can have people can have 9 things in common, but that 10th thing is Trump versus not, anti-Trump, and then that's the deal breaker for those people.
Hey, my whole thing is nonviolence. I'm an anti-war guy. Absolutely.
Yeah.
In the war on terror, in the war on drugs. You want my vote?
Make love, not war.
Exactly. You want my vote? Tell me that you're going to end the war on drugs and you're going to stop killing kids in third world countries. That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear.
And I tell you, if and being, I'm throwing this out. I'm getting ready to launch another podcast, and it's the theme is UFOs.
Oh yeah.
If Trump, during his time, is the guy that acknowledges that UFOs, aliens exist, I might get my vote. That's a game changer right there. So.
Okay, I'm not committing my vote for that right there. If he ends the war on drugs and stops killing kids in the Middle East, I'll consider it, but I don't hold out hope for that.
The war on drugs, that's a tough one, man. I just don't think it's going to go away. I mean, I honestly think you legalize, if he legalizes marijuana, if he helps federally legalize marijuana, that's a huge dent on the war on drugs, because
It is.
I mean, you got a lot of people in the U.S. The demand is so high for it to
You know, the stricter you are with the black market, the more ruthless people will want to be. And I don't know if you saw, Rogan had a guy on. He's a wildlife game official in California. He was talking about in the past 2 decades how they started coming across illegal grow operations in California with the cartels. It was a very, very interesting and informative podcast. This was one of his most recent ones. It's a very fascinating issue. People fail to understand, like, all of our immigration issues are centered around the war on drugs in Central America and how we've empowered the cartels. And all of our immigration issues from the Middle East are centered around our war on terror campaign. So this is something that we could address by just for any conservatives listening, if you really are a limited government and a free market person, you should recognize the ability to regulate a legal business. These things are being sold regardless. All you're doing is stunning. Everyone that gets caught up in the criminal justice system is hampered. Their kids are hampered. Their kids are hampered. It sets communities back for generations when you do that.
Agree.
And it's the same thing for the war on terror. The same friend that I mentioned a while ago that was talking about Obama being worried about pointing out the white nationalist issue in this country. She also, I don't know how to put this. She doesn't fully understand. You know what? Let me end that thought right there. I don't want to put words in her mouth.
I know.
Plus, I have ADHD and I half forgot exactly what I was going to say anyways. So,
all right. No, we're good.
Good.
Well, we're wrapping this up,
Okay,
but let's.
We got away from comedy.
No,
That's cool. We talked on
let's
culture
go back.
and politics.
You got the event this Sunday, which I'll have the podcast up in plenty of time prior to this. So
Awesome.
you'll have, and this is a bi-weekly thing?
We're bi-weekly every other Sunday, Wick's New Albany. It's 7 p.m. It's upstairs, Wick's New Albany on State Street.
Cover? Or anything?
There's no cover charge.
Okay.
No, they got great food. They got reasonable drink prices. We have a good time. We bring in a pretty packed crowd. We've been putting between 50 and 90 people in there consistently.
Very cool.
And so the business, Wick's is super happy with the amount of people that we're bringing in there. And it's going really well. And there's a lot of great shows. Again, go to Louisville is Funny on Facebook. You can find everything happening in comedy related in Louisville. Everyone is at our events. Everyone is welcome all the time. Most of the scene is the exact same way. You're going to find open doors and friendly smiles, and you're going to have a lot of laughs.
A lot of laughs. We can use some laughs right now.
I know. We got really serious right there and then promoted my venue.
Complete 180. But hey, Devin, very cool to meet you.
It was nice to meet you in person as well,
I'm
sir.
going to do my best to actually come out Sunday. I think you and I will be talking about some collaboration stuff
Cool,
that we
man.
can do together. So,
Awesome.
all right.
If I can, you know what? In the last second, I know
Okay.
you said we'll talk about this later. I want to go ahead and name drop three comedians.
Okay.
There's three female comedians here locally that I think would be great for roast. Melissa Duran is one of my favorite comedians. She's been my favorite in the city for a long time. She's hilarious. Katie Bevins is hysterical. She's a great roast comic, and Mandy McKelvey as well. Which Mandy is now a major touring player, so it may be harder to get her on
pin
your
her
roast.
down? Okay.
But you could add a couple more females on your dais for your next roast, and those three ladies are fucking phenomenal.
I need to connect with them. I would love to have them come on the podcast and maybe entertain me one-on-one.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
comedy-wise. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, my friend. Social media, where can people connect with you? Just
You know what?
have you got your own page yet?
I've
Or-
had a rough go with social media. I have been on social media hiatus.
Really?
Yeah, I took Facebook off my phone, man, because I
Well,
think it
kinda
messes
good
with
for
your
you.
brain, dude. It's hard. It's really hard to deal with the constant hatred. People like pontificate.
I'm
and
with you.
just like outrage about everything, and it's like it doesn't matter if I agree with you. I'm tired of the fighting.
Same.
Make love, not war. You know what I'm saying?
I tell you, I have to admit, on my phone, I've turned off the notifications on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Messenger. It's whenever I see something, it's because I choose to go look at it. My phone's not getting blasted with all these pop-ups that, so I've turned that shit off. So that's kind of my start to kind of,
Oh, you know what? Here's another thing about the apps. So Google saves all your passwords for you. And so Facebook emails you whenever somebody tags you or mentions you.
Right.
So it comes to my email, so I can still backdoor into it online because
Yes.
they're conspiring against you people, these damn companies.
I know, yeah. that's
Yeah,
a
so
good
I
point.
can still sneak into it, and because I don't let people tag me and post to my page on stuff, so I got to go in and approve that stuff. And so I still kind of backdoor in through my email from time to time from my phone. But
I'll tell you what, if I wasn't doing this podcast or any podcast or anything, event related, my ass would be on social media very little. I mean, this podcast and honestly, my kids are the main reason why I'm on social media.
yeah,
So, anyways, but good luck.
thank you, sir.
And let's do it again.
Awesome.
Let's continue
Hey,
our thing.
Wonderful. Thank
All
you
right,
very
thanks,
much.
Deb.
Appreciate you.